Okay, we are doing a webinar today on why we need to be working the body before the action. This is a concept which we base all our working on, basically. It is getting the body right first so that the action has the ability to do what it needs to do. And I've got a video of Jimmy here because, his action was so efficient. And we want to talk through, what goes into it in a physical sense because again, we talk about this all the time and still get people say to us, when are we going to start working on the action when they're 3 months in? And it's like if there was a virtual headbutt button, we're pressing it because every single thing we're doing is going in to actually having the body work so the action looks as efficient as possible. And when it's efficient, we get into the biomechanical positions we want to see, one for pace, but also to keep robust and away from injury and consistency. They're all the same positions. The issue we have is people try and put on pace by just trying harder. And that's, it is an issue. And we'll see that again with people going from nets to playing, doing completely different stuff and not just relaxing and going into the action. So it starts with the run up. So we're looking at the run up and we're saying, right, how are we looking here? And we're looking at Jimmy, where he's landing with his feet, and he's okay. No, there could be a little bit more stability around the pelvis, but generally he's landing on the flat of his foot, not landing on the heel. He's looking okay. Now this is also something that we're going to do a webinar on at some point about GPS. You see all the players wearing GPS and spits out figures and things like that, talking about your run up speed and things like that. But as a player, how the hell are you going to know if you're zero point 0.3 miles an hour slower or faster than your optimum pace? You're not. No one's got that intuition within them. So what we want to do is to be able to take clues from how you're moving. That's the key. Because the way Jimmy's moving here, again, it's all right. Like I said, we could have a little bit more stability around the pelvis, but that's just picking. But if we suddenly saw him land when he's running with his feet up more there, so he's landing right on a hill, that would be something we'd want to investigate before we start saying, Jimmy, you slowed down your running, so can you run a bit quicker? Again, we always go back to why. And the why always starts with the body. Okay. So this is the point we're going to make on everything. So, we're looking at the action saying, okay, again, everything's looking pretty smooth. Does he land a little bit in front of himself on the impulse? Possibly. But this isn't match intensity bowling. Match intensity probably a little bit lined up better than this. So, sorry, there's his impulse stride, but yeah, those two strides we can see are just slightly in front of him, so he's just slowing down a touch. But again, if we look at 30 deliveries and he's doing the same thing in every one, we know he's got the consistency. So then we go into looking at the actual action. So the jump, is he jumping that far? Not really. So that's great. Is he jumping that high? Not really. That's great. Okay. Then we want to look at the all-important back foot contact. So then we're checking out again, right? So let's undo that. Where's the back foot landed? Okay. And in the position. So we see he's more on the ball of the foot, the heel's in the air. The base of support is ever so slightly in front of the center of mass. So what's that telling us? It's telling us again, he could be decelerating a little bit. It could be decelerating. Now, it would be really interesting to look at Jimmy from, I remember my time at Somerset. I think it was 2001 when he burst onto the scene with Lancs and was bowling very, very quick to see the differences in there because obviously in the nets he might just be pulling it back and slowing down a little bit. But we want to be looking around here to say what physical things are going on that could be leading to issues. So then as he comes forward, we're looking around the ankle. Right, has he got movement at the ankle? What's going on at the ankle? And as we come forward from back foot to front foot, we know, Steph's classification, hip and knee dom. So many people ask about it, but for an individual, you don't really need to know it. It doesn't make a difference. If I say to someone randomly, yeah, you're a hip dom, yeah, you're a knee dom, that's not going to change your training because you don't understand how it plays into everything. for Jimmy here, he's in this position, and would say again, the base of support underneath the center of mass. He's got pretty good um, balance and stability here. Pretty good. If his body was back here with his center of mass around there, that's ringing alarm bells to us to say stability is not there. And with so many people, stability is the thing that's missing. But they want to jump forward and do loads of different drills instead of actually understanding if the body hasn't got it, we won't see it in the action. And just by doing drills isn't suddenly going to magic it up. Okay. So from there, what we want to see is this hip being able to come forward and that foot, because he's at 90 degrees, pivoting round. Okay, that's the two things we're looking for. Can he do this? Yes or no? As we know with Jimmy, yes, he can. Okay. Now, the foot actually doesn't come round as much as is maybe absolutely ideal, but that doesn't matter because we see that right hips forward. We then see that hip shoulder separation there. That right hips forward, right shoulders back, everything's pointing forward. And again, it doesn't matter slightly if his foot's slightly splayed out. Again, we need to understand what's going on here. And so many people get bogged down by these sorts of things. Whereas when we look at the whole action, think, right, what do we want to see and what do we not want to see, and what really, where's the bang for the buck that you're going to get? So we look at that and straight away we're saying, brilliant, his chain's working. He's efficient. We don't have to look too deeply here. Like I said before, there's probably things that we could have looked at on and say, right, if we improve this, that could possibly keep you away from that injury, particularly around the calf. But as a whole, we're seeing good things. And then it's not just that hip shoulder separation in the chain, he's got a decent bowling arm delay. So efficiency for him is absolutely fantastic. The foot is dragging along the floor. And we get to a release point, nice and tall, inside of the front leg. So when we look at that, we'd say he ticks so many boxes that his body can actually cope with this. And that is the key. What you wouldn't do with him is start saying, right, so we just get him really, really strong now. Because that would probably take away. And that's what he actually, I'm pretty sure with some people who were working with him at the time, he stopped doing a lot of what they were asking him to do because he would understand his body and how he worked. So when you see everything here and you see the fact that his hip, look how it rotates. Just look at the hip. That rotation there tells us it's got good hip internal rotation. That will be fine. We won't have to go looking for that. The way then he doesn't dump his pelvis forward tells us he's probably got really good hip extension as well. This tells us so much. The way he's got hip shoulder separation, thoracic's going to be pretty good. All these things leave clues, and that's what the bowling action is. It should be a sequence and a kinetic sequence from the ground up, which tell us exactly what's going on, but also tell us what isn't going on, so that then we can jump in to actually find the issue. Okay, now here is an issue. Someone could look at that and say, well, actually, his foot's all on the floor there, and he's probably bent at the knee too much. He needs to go and do a lot of single leg strength and prescribe him loads of step up, single leg squats, RDL, the whole thing that you've all been given before, without understanding what's happening, without understanding the action, what we need to action with the happen with the action. Whereas we need that fluid movement, because that's the key. Look at that. That's a great position to be in there. That hip in that bowling arm delay. When you understand this, then you understand, right, how can I help this bowler the most? Now, we've still got people who are like, I said, when are we going to start the bowling work? when are we going to start bowling work? It's about the body. If you've still got very poor access to hip internal rotation, if we've still got a very poor pelvic position, if we're very limited on back foot co-contraction work, if we're still unable to get really good hip and shoulder separation, then me telling you to go and do some hurdle drills, me telling you to go and put some poles up, because that's going to help lateral flexion, is an absolute crock of shit. It's a complete waste of time. But the trouble is, the player would think, oh, I'm actually doing some bowling work now, because we're conditioned to a couple things to do that sort of work for bowling drills and then just go into the gym and lift heavy to get stronger. Those things are happening on two different planes, and none of them are getting into where you want to be. Okay. It's the work of getting the action in the body able to do what we want in the action is the vital thing. And then, we've seen before we've even gone with any real specifics with bowling, the body organize itself in a way that is optimal, sorry. And we see these things start to happen because the brain's a pretty good bit of kit. It will want the path of least resistance and want efficiency. So that's why we love seeing what's happening here. The hip going forward, a good bowling arm delay, the back foot in contact. He's not going to get a back injury like that. Very unlikely to get a side strain. Think he's going to get a hammy? Probably not. We look at that and I'll be thinking everything there looks good. If I was to work with him, it would just be right. Let's make sure we keep getting you on the park, and can we keep that stability high? That will be the thing. With most people, that the whole lower, it starts with the lower body. So if we put a box there, starts there, none of this is happening, but they're talking to me about wanting to work this front arm. That front arm doesn't matter if the lower half's not doing its job. Okay, that front arm doesn't matter if we've got no hip shoulder separation. That front arm doesn't matter if we've got a really poor bowling arm delay. So we're focusing most of the time on the wrong things, the easy things, which we think are going to help, but they actually don't. So we don't want you guys to be busy fools, basically, of saying to us, yeah, but Juicy, when am I going to start doing bowling work? And like I said, tearing our hair out because everything we're doing is towards the end function of you bowling as quick as you possibly can, but as safe as you can. There's no point being the quickest idiot sat on the physio bench. No point at all. It's going to help no one. Okay, so if you're rushing to do bowling work, which is nets and crappy walkthroughs or whatever it is, you're completely killing the plan. You're completely killing your improvements. And it might be wise to listen because I've done this for 25 years. If that worked, I'd be telling you, yeah, brilliant. Go and buy some poles, just run through the poles, and that will sort everything out. As it, for the for the number of people who do those drills, number of people who do hurdle drills. Someone sent us a video the other day of someone literally with a nearly a full-size hurdle, as in the 100-meter hurdles, and they had bowlers jumping over there. How do you think their back foots looked? Pretty awful. Shocking. Okay. So it has to be body first. Once the body's working well, once the body's sequencing well, once it's in the positions that we want to see, then the action will pretty much take care of itself with a little bit of help, particularly the bowling conditioning sessions where we're drilling. We want to be drilling that back foot once we're in that position. So if we're doing an overhead med ball throw now, to be getting it in these positions at this intensity and then dragging that back foot through, because the brain will say, well, this is brilliant because my base of support is that. That's right below my center of mass. That then looks like a pretty solid pyramid to build off, rather than having your center of mass there and your base of support there with that back leg in the air. and us putting so much pressure on the back and the shoulder. Okay. So, in summary, absolutely crucial to understand the action, but realize the body drives the action. And if we do not sort the body out, it doesn't matter how many fucking drills you do, how much you're bowling, not much is going to change until you listen, do the right things, get the body tuned up, get the body working well, get the kinetic chain working well, get the sequence working well. The bowling will then take care of itself. Okay? Very straightforward, very simple, and that's where results come from.